A very good morning to everyone here at Karting Genk in Belgium, home of champions for the first round of the 2019 BNL Karting Series season. We're broadcasting live here at the circuit via our dedicated video live stream and also on the Spreaker network through our audio stream partners for 2019, Downforce Radio, the nation's motorsport station. My name's Alex Goldschmidt, your series commentator, and throughout the forthcoming 2 days, it's going to be absolutely fantastic action aplenty. We have 160 competitors split over 8 different categories with 14 different nationalities represented. It's the first of 3 race weekends, so we're here over the next 2 days here at the home of champions before we head to Karting Genk in Marienburg in the first weekend of July. That's July 6th and 7th, before we come back to the home of champions in early October to conclude the 11th season of competition. Currently underway, running a little bit behind schedule. We're just awaiting for qualifying to get started as OK and OK Junior are currently circulating at the moment. Quite a few familiar names from the likes of the BNL Karting Series. Also the Rotax Max Euro Trophy, which will be heading here on the 19th to the 21st of April to host the first ever Rotax Max Euro Trophy Open, where we will have the addition of Micro and Mini Max for the very first time in the short history of the Rotax Max Euro Trophy. And there will be some tickets available for those successful and winning at the end of the weekend to go to the 20th anniversary of the Rotax Max Challenge Grand Finals, which heads to the International Napoli circuit in Sarno in southern Italy, just off Mount Vesuvius, between October the 19th and October 26th. So times, and at the moment we've had quite a big subscription of entries. We were at one point nearly hitting 170 in total. So currently at the moment we're just getting the final warm-up session completed. Around about 2 minutes to go. At the moment leading that is the number 234 from France, Franck Chappard, with Avant Mallet in the 269 and Nicolas Picot in the 233, making it a clean sweep at the top. And the timetable itself, we'll see that DD2 and DD2 Masters will run alongside each other, as will OK and OK Junior. And OK and OK Junior are a new addition to the BNL Karting Series for 2019 at a request of the local ASN, and with the FIA CIK European Championships for OK and OK Junior coming here in the mid part of May, we felt it was only right that we oblige, and so we've had a pretty big grid. Around about sort of 21 drivers were out on track. I did see a little bit of a clash, unfortunately, between the OK Junior kick-off winner, which was Luxembourg's Maxime Fauron-Castellin, and Jules Castro from GKS Lemons Power, just off of turn 8, I believe. So Maxime was on the infield and Jules was just on the apex. 56 seconds to go on the clock, and now that Nicolas Picot now takes the top spot with the best time of a 53.147. So we'll be broadcasting all the way through the next couple of days. Each day is considered as one round of the championship, so it's 3 race weekends, 2 days of competition, with qualifying being very fast and furious. It will be 5 minutes per session, so it will be about drivers making sure that the qualifying laps are at their absolute optimum. The karts will have to be adjusted in terms of any sort of setup changes that might be needed within the technical regulations under the Royal Automobile Club of Belgium, with the governing ASN for this championship. So the checker flag is now out. Corby Pauls, a regular name here in Belgium, has recently announced that he will go and partner with OK World Champion Lorenzo Travisanuto this year in the European and the World Championships with the FIA. That's a very exciting prospect. He's a regular face in both the Euro Trophy and also the BNL Karting Series. And for this weekend, he was scheduled to do 2 categories, but opted to stick with what he's going to be doing this year, and that's running in OK. He's currently, he's actually second at the moment at 52.931 from the young Belgian, based out of Leopoldsburg, who was second in the FIA Academy Trophy last season, actually won here in the final round of the championship, which took place in early September, and missed out on the Academy Trophy Championship by just 1 point behind Spain's Mari Boya. So some drivers still circulating at the moment, with Chapard still, I think, on top. I think we'll probably see what the 234 from France does. And his best effort is a 52.708 around this 1,360 metre facility. Very technical, but also some very good overtaking opportunities, especially going through into turns 2. I've even seen overtakes happen around the outside of turn 4. Thank you very much, Lewis Gilbert, running in Senior Max this weekend. Because there was a bit of a confusion, because he was entered in both Super 1 at Fulbeck, but also here at Genk, and I'm pleased to say and confirm that he is actually here. But Frank Chapard from France was the fastest driver in the final warm-up session of the morning, ahead of Corby Pauls, Loris Cabirou, and Eva Mele and Nicolas Pico, making it 4 Frenchmen in the top 5. And it looks to be very, very close indeed. We'll see what they do in qualifying a little bit later on this morning. Their qualifying session will be at around about 20 past 10 local time. We've got competitors as far wide as Georgia, Belarus, Morocco, France, Denmark, Sweden. Also, quite a bit of the UK contingent are here in their droves as well. It's not too far from the port of Calais by Eurotunnel to get here, around about 3.5 hours, depending if you have got a heavy load to bring along with you. It's in tools, supplies and that kind of thing, as well as the 2 carts of Maxime Foran-Castellan and Jules Castro are being recovered. So in terms of the qualifying sessions coming up very, very shortly, Junior Max will have 2 groups, all decided by a lottery, as will Senior Max. We've had over 40 entries per class. And in terms of what's going to happen in terms of the race weekend and race day format, as a result of both categories being subscribed fully to 36, the series organisers decided to extend the entries to a maximum cap of 54. And as I can see in the pre-grid, for those watching at home, we have the first set of qualifiers for this weekend's action. It's day 1, round 1, 2019, and we are definitely ready to race. So we will have the first Junior Max qualification session underway very shortly. Each session will be no more than 5 minutes in duration. The temperatures will be anywhere up to about a high of 13 degrees Celsius. Yesterday it was 20 degrees, lovely and sunny, as I got a picture sent to me via WhatsApp at about 4:30 my time. So normally I work an hour behind everyone in Central Europe. Unless when I come over here I have to put the clocks forward an hour. So the race formats will be that Junior and Senior Max qualifying heats will take place, as well as the second chance heat later on this afternoon. The top 28 from both Junior and Senior Max will progress to the top 36 final at the end of the day, with the second chance heat seeing 8 respective drivers qualifying on merit. So we'll have 36 Junior Max and 36 Senior Max drivers out battling for points as it goes towards a campaign that is going to be very exciting and very action-packed, as we now finally get qualifying underway here at the Home of Champions. So we have the likes of Mike Van Vught, defending Junior Max BNL Karting Series champion, defending Chrono Kart Series champion, and also he picked up the 3-peat with the Rotax Max Euro Trophy Junior Max crown last season. Had a bit of a difficult weekend at the kickoff 4 weeks ago, where we gave away six tickets to the International Trophy being held at Le Mans this coming August between the 21st and the 24th. 8 free season entries were given away to competitors So the 6 runners-up in the Rotax powered classes, and also the 2 winners in OK and OK Junior. 4 minutes, 9 seconds on the clock remaining. So first sector's coming in. Jeff Machiels running at a 28.4, it looks like, so that's a bit quicker than everybody else. Danny Van Dyke in the 2:56, running about 0.2 of a second adrift on the first sector, and a further 10th in sector number 2. So we'll get the first banker laps coming through as drivers are starting to jostle for position. So times are changing. Jeff Machiels takes provisional pole in Group 1, ahead of Danny Van Dyke, Max Stemmerdink, Chris Haanen, Oscar Christensen, Gianni Andrisani, Kai Hillertz, Christian de Klein, Lars Zanen, Sam Bergstein, who was rounding at the top 10, now drops to 12 thanks to Jaroslav Zimashka, as Mike Van Vught goes provisionally second behind Jeff Machiels. So just over 0.2 separating the pair at the minute. 3 minutes on the clock remaining. And in terms of the qualifying, it will be based on an aggregate, and then they will be split in their respective groups, 3 of which, 8 groups A, B and C. So Machiels leading the way at the minute with a 1 minute 4.725. Mike Van Vught, 1 minute 4.981 ahead of Danny Van Dyke, with Max Stemmerdink and Chris Haanen making it 4 Dutch drivers in the top 5 at the moment. Next up after that, Max Stemmerdink goes up into 3rd, Kai Hillertz up into 4th, Gianni Andrisani rounds out the top 6, with Zen Rudenberg rounding out the top 10. Gaps will get closer as the session gets to its inevitable conclusion. And in some cases, they will be pulling more than 1.5 times the force of gravity, especially going through turn 8, where you've got the likes of Danny Van Dyke. You've also got the number 254, I believe, there. Or 264, I believe. Just trying to keep an eye out for who's doing what at the moment. Jeff Machiels still top, 57.425. Chris Haanen, Max Stemmerdink, Kai Hillertz, Danny Van Dyke. That is the top 5 at the moment, separated by just over 0.6 of a second as we go towards the last 90 seconds of this first of 8 qualifying sessions, respectively. Yes, I did say that correctly, 8. As Chris Haanen now goes top, 56.507 from the Dutch driver, ahead of Max Stemmerdink in the 209, 56.546. Well, actually gets beaten just quickly by Martin Koppens from Belgium in the 244. As Gianni Andrisani goes through into turn number 7. Quick right-left flick, now into the right-hander, into turn 8, and is being followed by the 274 of Kai Hillertz. And then you've got the 262 of Oscar Christensen, who's currently 4th. We're now down to the last 60 seconds of this first qualifying session of the weekend. Just going to keep an eye and see what is going to change. 20 drivers competing in this qualification session. Jeff Machiels goes top. Max Stemmerdink up into 4th. Gianni Andrisani up into 8th. Mike Van Vught down into 9th. We'll make that 10th now as it's changing hand over fist. Runeberg 10th. Bergstein 13th. Stennis from Denmark in 14th ahead of Lucas Schoenmakers. Martin Koppens up into 4th. Chris Haanen now rounds out the top 3. As Koppens goes back into 4th place. Maurice Bechtel from Germany in the 215 goes into 16th position and posts the best time of a 57.063. Now drops down into 18th. Kai Hillertz in 11th place. Jeff Machiels in 1st. Danny Van Dyke in 2nd. Chris Haanen, Martin Koppens, Mike Van Vught. That is your top 5 as the checkered flag waves. And at the minute, it looks like Jeff Machiels could be on provisional pole, but it depends on what the likes of Mike Van Vught, Lucas Schoenemakers, Oscar Christensen and many others could do. Kai Hillertz 7th ahead of Christensen, Andrisani in 9th. As Koppens and Van Vught are just around the final corner at the moment, as Van Vught gets his head down. Where is he going to place? He goes 4th. He goes 4th in that qualifying session. So, first qualifying session of the day out of the way there, with the first group for Junior Max. So Jeff Michiels from Belgium takes pole position provisionally with a 55.531, ahead of Danny Van Dijk, Chris Hanen, Mike Van Vugt and Max Stemmerdink rounding out the top 5. So 4 Dutch drivers from 2nd to 5th position, but Jeff Michiels from GKS Lemons Power, based here at the home of champions, Karting Genk, puts it on pole position ahead of Danny Van Dijk, Chris Hanen, Mike Van Vugt, Max Stemmerdink, Milan Koppens, Kai Geerts, Lucas Schoenemakers, Oscar Christensen, Gianni Andrisani rounding out the top 10, with Sven Rudenberg, Christian de Klein, Samuel Webb, Sam Bergstein, Lars Zenen, Samuel Stendis, Jan Ozoffi, Jaroslav Zimashka, Maurice Bechtel and Daniel Hunt rounding out the 20 strong, with the top 19 separated by just over 1.5 seconds. So we have a further 7 qualifying sessions. So next up it will be the second group for Junior Max. And in terms of the prizes on offer, in terms of the BNL Karting Series, as the drivers now make their way off of the pre-grid under the Red Bull banner, will be the Junior Max, Senior Max, DD2 and DD2 Masters champions from this year will go to Sarno in Italy this coming October for the 20th anniversary of the Rotax Max Challenge Grand Finals in Italy. That's one heck of a place, and I'm looking forward to seeing how many drivers, because effectively it is considered, quote-unquote, the World Cup of karting. It's the most colourful display. Everyone gets along with everybody, and it's a fantastic event. I've watched so many Rotax finals over the past couple of years, and hopefully one day I might get there. You never know. Who's not to say that might happen? 4 minutes and 9 seconds to go in this second qualifying session, and quite a few Brits in there. Will Jenkins, Matthew Higgins, Tom Adams, Callum Voisin, Daniel Ginchard, who was runner-up in the kick-off 4 weeks ago. We've also got Daniel Surankov. Bruno Mulders was running in Minimax last year, but made the jump and wanted to get the experiences he posted on Instagram over the last 24 hours, saying that he wanted to get the experience. He said it's been a bit tough, but it's a good learning curve. Well, Bruno, let's see what you've got, my friend. We've got Tom Heinertz, another one that's graduated from Minimax and also showed a very good performance at the kickoff. I think ended up in the top 6 when the weekend results were confirmed. So, Dan Zopfi from the Netherlands, ahead of Tom Heinertz, Tom Adams, Daniel Ginchard, Rasmus Vendelbo from Denmark rounds out the top 5 as Rasmus Andersen now goes 4th on a 1 minute 4.271. So expect the times again will drop. The drivers will be able to feel the grip on the tyres as they rubber in and they get through that first little layer of chemicals on the top part of it. Some might decide, well, I'll use a set of tyres that I've already used, as Dan Ginchard just goes through turn 10, sorry. So Tom Reinert's coming round towards the final turn here at Karting Genk. Another great place for overtaking opportunities, but also if you get the run of momentum coming down the main straightaway, going into turn 1, you can really do a really good slingshot pass on somebody. So, Tom Heinertz on provisional pole. Rasmus Vendelbo. Daniel Ginchard now drops to 4th as Rasmus Andersen makes it 2 Danes in the top 3. Tom Adams makes it another Brit in the top 5. Will Jenkins and Callum Voisin now down in 7th and 8th respectively, with Maurice Schuring and Dirk Jansen rounding out the top 10, who are separated by 1.6 seconds at this moment in time as we go into the last 2 minutes of this qualifying session. Dan Zopfi now goes up into 2nd with the 56.902, with Patrick Norslock-Melis changing as Dan Ginchard hits the top in the 2:54, 56.128 from the Brit, well 56.419. That's quickly deposed by Matt Higgins and also by Tom Heinertz, who now complete the top 2. Higgins with a 56.128, Heinertz with a 56.275. Ginchard is just 0.3 of a second off Higgins at the minute. Tom Adams, Rasmus Vendelbo ran at the top 5 ahead of Will Jenkins, Callum Boyson, Dan Zotfi, Dirk Jansen and Patrick Knowles-Lock-Mellis, completing the top 10, all separated by just over 0.8 of a second. And not far outside the top 10 is Valentin Klus from Germany in the 211 with a 56.980. 50 on the clock remaining in this qualifying session, the second decided by lottery. As just keeping an eye on the times. Ginchard goes sub 56. A great effort from the Brit in the 254, but Higgins responds in kind and goes a further 10th faster. So it's, but Ginchard now drops down into 5th position as Reinhardts Vendelbo respond, as does Tom Adams, who goes 2nd. So it is a Brit 1-2 ahead of Reinhardts from the Netherlands, Vendelbo from Denmark, Ginchard in 5th. Maurice Schuring goes up into 8th place ahead of Boyson and Jansen. So time's now expired. The checkered flag will now wave on the start-finish line. So we'll get an idea of who's going to place where after this quick, rapid-fire qualifying session. Dan Zotfi confirmed as 18th. Knowles-Lock-Mellis in 8th position. Ginchard goes faster again by 0.071 seconds. And then instantly, Tom Adams responds on the last flying lap as well and goes top. 55.696 from the 217 from the UK, with Dan Ginchard making it a British 1-2 in Junior Max Group 2 qualifying. Rasmus Vendelbo rounds out the top 3, with Matthew Higgins making it 3 Brits in the top 4. Valentin Klus came storming through at the end with a 55.839 from the 211 from Germany. But when it was all said and done, Tom Adams took pole position in that session. The youngster from Coles Racing ahead of Dan Ginchard, Rasmus Vendelbo, Matthew Higgins, Valentin Klus running out the top 5, separated by less than 1/10.5 of a second. Quickly followed by Tom Reinhardts, Bart de Wit, Will Jenkins, Callum Boyson, Alexander Abkazava, and from Georgia, Maurice Schuring, Patrick Knowles-Lock-Mellis, Dirk Jansen, Artem Mikhailov, Bruno Mollers qualified 15th in that group. Rasmus Andersen, Daniel Surankov, Flint Schuring and Dan Zotfi complete the 19 strong. Now it's time to get to Senior Max. 5 minutes on the clock. Quite a few Brits and also a few returnees. Philippe Varget, who also has represented Team Belgium at the Rotax Max Challenge Grand Finals in previous years. Emily de Hoys, Mick Knowlton, vice-champion in last year's Euro Trophy season. Patrick Rundqvist, Felix Jansson, Charlie Turner, Kin Sang, Andreas Herbert, Danny Kroos, Emily de Hoys, Teddy Clinton. So we'll see how everything pans out over the next 4 minutes and 45 seconds. So we'll get the initial banker laps coming in very shortly, but expect these guys to be a little bit quicker than our Junior Max competitors. So 24 in this qualifying session, so by my reckoning, I think we're going to have at least 46, maybe even 48 competitors that have registered their entries and are here this weekend to compete. So Mick Knowlton sets the initial benchmark of a 58.691, but then Stormbreur does a 58.422. Emily de Hoys rounds out the top 3 at the minute, but then gets quickly deposed by Kai Hunter, who goes second quickest with a 57.377, 337, my apologies there. So at the moment, the top 10 are separated by just under 1 3/4 seconds. As Charlie Turner goes to the top of the timesheets with a 57.085 ahead of Kai Hunter, Kian Sang and Teddy Clinton were rounding out the top 4 for the Brits. But then it gets even quicker as Mick Knowlton goes sub 55, as does Lorenzo Stolk, as does Emily de Hoys. Stormbroer makes it a clean sweep of the top 4 for the Netherlands at this particular moment. Felix Jansson goes sort of round. Well, Felix Jansson was around about sort of 5th and has quickly dropped out of the top 10 as Charlie Turner retakes provisional pole ahead of Kai Hunter, Kian Sang as well, Patrick Rundqvist, Samuel Harrison, Christian Koyer, Jason Lockwood rounds out the top 7 ahead of Mick Knowlton, Felix Varge, and Anthony Overbeek, who rounds out the top 10, separated by less than 6 tenths. In fact, to the nearest decimal point, 0.001. That's how close it can be in qualifying. Less than 2 minutes to go in Senior Max Group qualifying session number 1. We'll have the second group up very, very shortly as we head into the last 2 minutes. Patrick Rundqvist responds now and does a 54.022 ahead of Jason Lockwood. And then it was Charlie Turner in 3rd, but Turner's responded and has gone 2nd. Now Teddy Clinton in the 3:45 responds. Sam Harrison up into 12th ahead of Emily de Hoys in 13th. Felix Varge in the 3:07 up into 14th now. Top 15 separated by less than 4 tenths. This is how close it can be as we're going to get down to the last 60 seconds in qualifying. So Rundqvist from Turner, Clinton, Lockwood, Breur, Herbert, Stolk, Jansson, Knowlton and Buthorn. That's Rick Buthorn in the number 393, rounding out the top 10, separated by just over 3 tenths as more drivers now go to complete another lap. So if they're on a lap at the moment and they cross the line with around 55 seconds, they'll have time for one more flying lap as Charlie Turner goes sub 54 in this qualifying session. 53.947 from the Brit ahead of Rundqvist. Kai Hunter now jumps back up into 3rd position in the 3:95. Teddy Clinton and Jason Lockwood. It's just over 2 tenths of a second between the top 5. Mick Knowlton is within firing distance, as in he'll fire a warning shot at them this morning, I can guarantee you that much. Stormbroer, Andreas Herbert, Emily de Hoys and Lorenzo Stork round out the top 10 as drivers will they cross the line pretty much now or in the next 10 seconds. They'll have a chance at another flying lap. This is going to provide that opportunistic and strategic play to help them get up the order. So checkered flag is out and it is waved. So Turner provisionally at the moment is on pole, but I'm waiting to see what happens with the likes of Clinton, Knowlton, de Hoys. So Turner has got provisional pole at the minute as drivers still attempting their last flying laps. Patrick Rundqvist will be at least 2nd in this group ahead of Kai Hunter, Teddy Clinton and Jason Lockwood. But I'm wondering what Mick Knowlton is going to bring to this, the 3:04 from the Netherlands. As some of them are still going through turn 10. So Mick Knowlton was 6th in that session, just under 3 tenths of a second off of the pole position in that group, which was secured by the UK's Charlie Turner with a very impressive 53.947. The only driver it looks to have been the case to have gone under it, and he's done that twice in 2 respective laps. With the last lap from Charlie Turner being a 53.965. That is 0.018 off of the pole position time. So Charlie Turner takes pole position in qualifying group number 1 for the seniors. Ahead of Sweden's Patrick Rundqvist. From the UK, it's Kai Hunter, Teddy Clinton and Jason Lockwood that round out the top 5. So 4 Brits in the top 5. That's a pretty good showing from the contingent there. Mick Knowlton and Stormbroer round out the top 7, separated by just over 3 tenths of a second. Andreas Herbert, Emily de Hoys and Lorenzo Stolk round out the top 10. Felix Varge, Felix Jansson, Rick Buthorn, Christian Koyer, Samuel Harrison, Kian Sang, Bram Ossevarde, Danny Kreuz and Anthony Overbeek and Marcus Radney round out the top 20, separated by just over 8 tenths of a second, with Clementine Benoit, Brent Verheyen and Luca Den Hartog rounding out the finishing order. But Emily de Hoys, according to that, did not have a registered time, but I did see that, well, it could be that she might have a transponder issue. But we now have another 23 Senior Max drivers heading out for their qualifying session. And that means we have a total of 47 drivers competing for the top 28 spots for the final this afternoon. The best of the second chance seats, that's from 29th to 47th, will have to fight for 8 positions on the back end of that starting grid. So we have the likes of Lewis Gilbert, Clayton Ravenscroft, Ben Davis, Arthur Roche, Antoine Antier, Mads Ries, who's doing I think he's doing 2 categories this weekend, as is Jules Castro. So Mads will be in Senior Max and OK. We've also got Hayden Cater, who's a chap I remember from my days at Rye House, running in the IKR series. Good to see that he's come over to Europe to ply his trade. Ilian Brunsils, well known in these parts. Leroy Jägersar, also a BNL regular, from what I understand. Henri Jung and Fabian Bock, Ilian Brunsils. Reese Hunter is in this session. Nick van der Mosselaar, Pieter Jan Bollen, Dylan LaHaye, who's now in his 7th season with GKS Lemons Power, and he's hoping it's a lucky one this year. So fingers crossed for the Belgium in the 3:28. 3.5 minutes to go in this qualifying session. And we're already dropping into the mid-58s with Dylan LaHaye top at the moment with a 58.422. Alexander Luck from the UK in the 333, 59.385. So a little bit of time to find there from the Brits, as we're just waiting for other drivers just to come through and complete some of their laps. So some pretty decent sectors out there as Dylan LaHaye again goes quicker. 54.773 from the Belgian. Vincent van Kerkhoven was third, but was second, and gets deposed by Nick van der Mosselaar from the Netherlands, who puts through a 55.109. But is there going to be somebody else, apart from Charlie Turner from the UK, that can go sub 54? We have just under 2.5 minutes to find that particular answer to that question I've just posed very, very shortly. So drivers, the top 7 separated by just over 8.5 tenths, with Leroy Jägersar and Alexander Luck split by just 0.001 seconds for 6th and 7th respectively. Dylan LaHaye has improved yet again and extends the gap over Vincent van Kerkhoven by nearly 0.4 of a second. That's incredible pace from the 3:28 from Belgium, a 54.342. As we now head into the last 90 seconds of this qualifying session. Ilian Brunsils now takes the top spot and goes 0.036 seconds ahead of Dylan LaHaye and takes provisional pole at the moment. James Lowther up into 6th as Clayton Ravenscroft goes into 5th position with a 54.544. So it's Brunsils. Well, LaHaye responds and goes 0.01 of a second ahead of Ilian Brunsils. So LaHaye from Brunsils, Reese Hunter, Lewis Gilbert and Clayton Ravenscroft round out the top 5, separated by just over 2.5 tenths. We've got 47 on the clock to go here in this qualifying session. The second of 2 for Senior Max, and it will be the same for Junior and Seniors tomorrow as well. As Ilian Brunsils now goes under the 54-second barrier with around 35 seconds to go, but Reese Hunter responds in kind and goes just 0.013 of a second quicker on that last tour with a 53.928. Brunsils 53.941. Ravenscroft 54.029. Gilbert 54.054. Less than 1.5 tenths separate the top 4 as the time is fast closing down and it's going to expire in about 3 seconds' time. So drivers will want to make sure that their track position is optimised to give them the best shot possible. So Leroy Jägersar, I think, will be qualified as 9th. Alexander Luck in 16th. And it looks like that Reese Hunter has taken it, but I'm just waiting for Lewis Gilbert and, of course, Mads Rees. Well, Gilbert goes 3rd ahead of Ravenscroft, but behind Brunsils. Dylan LaHaye is still circulating at the minute and is about to complete his final flying lap attempt here in qualifying. So, Reese Hunter takes pole position in Senior Max qualifying group number 2 by just 0.013 seconds ahead of Belgium's Ilian Brunsils in the 3:08. The Dorrai Diamond, Lewis Gilbert in the 3:29 takes 3rd, just a further 0.75 of a second adrift. And then it's a further 0.012 back to Clayton Ravenscroft, and then just over a further 10th back is Mads Rees from Denmark. Ben Donkin, Dylan LaHaye, Ben Davis, Leroy Jägersar and Artur Horsch round out the top 10, who were separated by just under half a second. And it was a further 8 1/1000ths back to Alex Pendlebury in the 3:39 with James Lowther, Henri Young, Nick van der Mosselaar, Vincent van Kerkhoven, Georges Bersis from Greece, Alexander Luck, Victor Plateau, Pieter van Bollen, Fabian Bock, Antoine Antier and Victor Paulsen being the last classified qualifier. I'm not too sure what's happened with Hayden Cater. Sure, I'll find out a bit later on, but the 3:44 has no lap time registered. But the top 22 that qualified was separated by just under 1.2 seconds. So that concludes the qualifying phase for the Senior Max division. And next up we have our youngest competitors here. These drivers will be vying for an opportunity to be the top-ranked driver in terms of point finishes at the end of the second race weekend, which takes place at Marienburg at Karting Genk on July 6th and 7th. The top-ranked driver on points with the best 7 out of 8 point scores will get a coveted entry to the International Trophy at Le Mans this coming August. So this is one prize that these youngsters, I definitely know, want to have an opportunity at doing. I know that Tommy van der Stroys has already got one because he won that fair and square last month at the kickoff. Oh, I think some of the mechanics need to get out of the way very quickly, as the youngsters were very keen on the throttle there. So I understand that Len Nyes is not here this weekend. He did get a free season pass for the BNL Karting Series in terms of an entry for 2019. So we have the likes of Tommy van der Stroys, as I've already mentioned. We've also got Aaron Ferrazano in the 46, Henri Velou, Mateo Radenkovic, Karel Stout, who was the recipient of the Peter de Wit Fair Play Trophy last month, which was a new initiative created by myself and also series organiser Dave Ritson to honour Peter, who we lost very suddenly earlier on this January. It's for the most sporting driver both on and off the track, and a new winner will be crowned this coming weekend. Casper Schormans is the one that got out, I think, in front of everybody, so has a bit of prime track position. Thomas Stuyven and Olivier Jonkers, 2 regulars at GKS Lemons Power. Max Sidursky, you then got the Vanger Langendonks. Dries and Tom, 15 and 26 respectively in terms of race number. Holland van Wees in the number 2. Kaz Tobben, Mick Vandenberg, Henri Velou, Karel Stout, Jake Menton and Tom Pappenberg. So we have 16 Micromax competitors, as we have 3.5 minutes of this session to go. As coming into shot on the live stream for those watching at home, thank you very much for tuning in. That's Casper Schormans as ahead of the number 54 of Tommy van der Stroys, who's running on the Paralin chassis. So initial times coming in. Tommy van der Stroys initially leading at the moment with a 1 minute 6.345 ahead of Casper Schormans and Aaron Ferrazano rounding out the top 3. Max Sidursky and Thomas Stuyven round out the top 5, separated by just over 1.4 seconds. as Van der Stroys gets the toe on Shawmans going down the start-finish straight. And could this be a sign of things to come when they go into their race a little bit later on? Their first final will be at 11 o'clock this morning, around about that time, 11 minutes plus one additional lap. For 2019, the BNL Karting Series, up until last season, was running to laps only, but because of the fact that we've got OK and OK Junior this year with us, it's now gone to timed races with one additional lap. Very much in the same inkling as the DTM, which runs to 55 minutes plus one additional lap. So we've sort of adopted a bit of a format for it, which is also a similar format for the Euro Trophy. Don't forget, those that want to enter, you still have an opportunity to head to either if you're Junior Max, Senior Max, DD2 or DD2 Masters, entries are still open for April 19th and 21st. Also, there is a Micro and Mini Max trophy as well. There's 4 tickets up for grabs for the winner and the runner-up in both categories for the International Trophy. But also there will be 3 grand final tickets given away with Junior Max, Senior Max and DD2 race weekend winners heading to Sarno. The DD2 Masters weekend winner at the Euro Trophy Open will get a full season entry to, and I mean entry only that is, to the full 2019 Euro Trophy season, which gets underway at Adria Raceway on May 31st to June 2nd. So at the moment, in terms of getting back to qualifying, Olivier Jonkers from Belgium now leading the way, 1 minute 2.8 from the young Belgian in the number 16, and is 0.044 ahead of Tommy van der Stroys. Thomas Strauven in third. Max Swiderski and Kasper Schurmans round out the top 5, separated by just over, would you believe this, 2.5 tenths of a second. Adam Ferrazano in 6th. Dries and Tom van Langendonk rounding out the top 8, ahead of Holland van Wijs and Henri Valou rounding out the top 10, separated by just under 1.3 seconds. As we go into the last 30 seconds of qualifying, Van der Stroys responds in kind and goes 0.3 of a second quicker almost ahead of Olivier Jonkers. So Van der Stroys 1 minute 2.511 from the young Dutchman in the 54. Olivier Jonkers in the number 16 in second. Max Swiderski in third. Kasper Schurmans in fourth position. Thomas Strauven rounds out the top 5 with them being separated by less than 4.5 tenths. Checkered flag is going to be waved this time around as the time has now expired. Still a bit of drafting going on. Looks to be the number 8, or number 9 in fact, of Thomas Strauven, probably with Olivier Jonkers in tow, which is the case. So drivers completing their last flying laps in qualifying. Checkered flag waves. And Van der Stroys at the moment is showing on pole. Olivier Jonkers jumps up into third, having been deposed for second by Kasper Schurmans. So it's Van der Stroys, Schurmans, Jonkers, Strauven, Swiderski, Ferrazano. Holland van Wijs will start from 11th on the first final a little bit later on this morning. Mick Vandenberg from the Netherlands in the number 29 will start from 14th position. So just waiting for Jake Menton and Tom Pappenberg to cross the line, which they have done now. But it is Tommy van der Stroys in the number 54 that takes pole position with a 1 minute 2.473. And it's a Dutch 1-2 because Kasper Schurmans was just under 2.5 tenths of a second adrift of his countryman ahead of Olivier Jonkers. Thomas Strauven, Max Swiderski rounding out the top 5. Adam Ferrazano ahead of Dries van Langendonk, who was in 7th position. Tom van Langendonk, Henri Valou and Mateo Radenkovic ran out the top 10 with Holland van Wijs, Karel Stout, Kaz Tobben, Mick Vandenberg, Jake Menton and Tom Pappenberg rounding out the 16 strong. So that's their sole qualifying session of the day. They'll have another one tomorrow, but they'll have 2 races to contend with a little bit later on this morning, the first of which will be at around about 11 o'clock or so, depending on just how much of a delay we have. I think it's around about 5 minutes behind time at the moment.
has an echo in this one. But I don't know why. Can you shut off the talk? Can you shut off this micro?
Apologies for those on the Downforce radio stream. We're just doing some microphone tests at the moment because we're having a conflict in signals. So just bear with us if I do actually have to drop the signal at some point, but we will make sure that there is an opportunity that if we can't carry on broadcasting, we will make sure that there is a full provided recording, which will be downloadable free of charge, courtesy of us here at Downforce Radio, the nation's motorsport station, with myself being their official communications manager. So 3 minutes and 30 on the clock to go here in this session for the Minimax qualification. And at the moment the initial banker is being set by Tim Gerhards from the Netherlands, ahead of Enzo Bol in the 155. Nick Gerhards in the 60 is currently third, ahead of Tern Schmidt. Jaden Thien, Maxim Suchurko, Jasper Leenerts in 7th, ahead of Jules Van Zyl. Max Knappen in 9th, who's just set a 1 minute 17.3, but Tim Gerhards is clearly on the pace because the number 50, who ended up third after an unfortunate clash at the kickoff a few weeks ago, is currently running in provisional pole with a 1 minute 5.596. Enzo Bol is the closest competitor to the number 50 at the moment, about 0.7 of a second adrift as we speak. Then it's Nick Gerhards as we get towards the magic 60-second barrier here in Minimax. Tim Gerhards goes to just over 9/10 off of that barrier with a 1 minute 0.914. Nick Gerhards now into second as Jaden Thien storms to provisional pole with around 2 minutes and 15 on the clock remaining, and that is a 1 minute 0.807. So the 107 from the Netherlands takes the initial advantage as Max Knappen in the 148 goes up into 4th position on a 1 minute 1.963. Enzo Bol makes it a Dutch clean sweep of the top 5. And they are separated by just under 1.2 seconds. So just keeping an eye on the timesheets. Nothing's quite changed at the moment as we head into the last 90 seconds. But we have broken that barrier thanks to Tim Gerhards in the number 50. He's just done a 59.935. That's nearly half a second quicker than Enzo Bol. So Bol's going to have to respond if he wants to get pole position. But if it's on the front row, as Jaden Thien also breaks the 60-second barrier with a 59.756 from the youngster from the Netherlands. Max Knappen jumps back up into 4th position ahead of Jasper Leenerts in the 177 from Belgium. Just under 60 seconds of this Minimax qualification session to go. And it's Thien from Tim Gerhards, Enzo Bol, Max Knappen, Jasper Leenerts, Nick Gerhards, Jules Van Zyl, Tern Schmidt, Maxim Suchurko and Matthias van Goertem rounding out the 10 strong. 40 on the clock. Still to go in this qualifying session. As Enzo Boll just usurps Tim Gerhard's with a time that's nearly a tenth of a second quicker, a 59.841. Well, actually, is nearly, 2/100ths of a second quicker than Tim Gerhard's. My apologies there. As Jules Van Thul goes up into sixth place on a 1:09.927. As the time is about to expire, 5 on the clock to go. This is going to be the last attempt for those drivers trying to get their best lap times in, as Nick Gerhard's down in 7th at the moment is feverishly working behind the steering wheel of the number 60 to keep it straight and true, as Max Verstappen also doing the same. Checkered flag is going to be waved right now as we get our first driver to cross the line. And that is Tim Gerhard, who goes top, I believe, 59.532. So Gerhard goes up to provisional pole, but it's going to be about how Jaden Thieden responds, and does by nearly 2/10. That's an incredible lap time from Jaden Thieden. Pulled it out of the bag on the last flying lap and secures pole position at the dying seconds. The 107 from the Netherlands takes pole position for Minimax final number 1 that takes place at 20 past 11 or around about that sort of time this morning. So Jaden Thieden takes pole by nearly 2/10 of a second from Tim Gerhards from the Netherlands, with Max Verstappen and Enzo Boll making it a clean sweep of the top 4 from the Netherlands, separated by just under half a second. You then got Jasper Leenerts, Jules Van Hul rounding out the top 6, separated by just under 1.15 seconds. Nick Gerhards will start from 7th position, ahead of Turnschmidt, Matthias von Gotham and Maxim Suchurko, rounding out the complete grid in terms of 10 drivers, all separated by 1.7. We now go into our penultimate qualifying session of day 1 of race weekend 1 for the 2019 BNL Karting Series season. It is time for DD2 and DD2 Masters. So again, just like the other categories, they have 5 minutes to qualify as best as they can. So they're just patiently waiting on the pre-grid. So I think we might be just about running to time, or thereabouts. And, well, as I say that, yes, 8 minutes past 10 in the morning local time, and we get qualifying underway, bang on schedule for DD2 and DD2 Masters. For those wondering what the number denominations are, it's number 4 at the front of their race number for DD2, and it's a number 5 for DD2 Masters. 27 combined entrants over both categories, ready to go into battle for qualifying. One driver that took the DD2 overall title last year, Belgium's Zander Schublak with Moving Power in the 412, is in this bunch. Also, you've got Christophe Adams, or Mr. Casanova as he's jovially known here in the BNL Karting Series paddock, 555. He won the DD2 Masters category last year. We've got a few from the UK, the likes of Tamsin Germain, Roland Kinch, Jamie Billings. We've also got the likes of William van der Kaj. We've also got Marcel Steiner, Patrick Weinstock, David Remy, who makes the move up from Senior Max last year to DD2. Jan Schwitter, who moved from Dames Racing to FM Racing, which is under the same stable as Maxi Fleischmann from Germany, who last year took the vice-champion status in the DD2 Euro Trophy Championship. So 3 minutes and 39 seconds on the clock remaining in this what's going to be set to be a very fast, action-packed session, as we're already going sub-60 in the initial foray. Lasse Andreasen from Denmark leads William van der Kaj, Marcel Steiner. Tamsin Germain at the moment is the quickest of the DD2 Masters drivers in 5th position, ahead of Alexander Derlinger from the Netherlands. And that has rapidly changed as David Remy goes 2nd in the 4:55. Zander Schriblak now goes up into the pole position spot for DD2. Tamsin Germain still provisionally on DD2 Masters pole for this race, for their first final a little bit later on, which will take place after the lunch break, as we see Dionysius Liveris from Greece in the 4:36 from Dames Racing Team. So the time's now getting towards the low 54s as Jan Negusens from Belgium goes provisional pole, as Karl Klerbort is now up into 2nd in the DD2 Masters classification. Well, make that 3rd, as Michael Becker from Germany is 7th overall, but on DD2 Masters provisional pole. Jan Schwitter goes top and breaks the 54-second barrier, goes quicker than Zander Schriblak. These two were battling at the kickoff 4 weeks ago, and Schriblak got the upper hand, but Schwitter, as a result of getting a free season pass, is going to use that to his absolute advantage. Lasse Andreasen up into 2nd, Marcel Steiner up into 4th position, Frits Wernsen from the Netherlands up into 19th, well, make that 21st position. Tamsin Germain now goes provisional pole in DD2 Masters in now what is 12th place on a 54.605. Times are rapidly dropping here as we go into the last 90 seconds. Jan Negusens, Jan Schwitter, Lasse Andreasen, Zander Schriblak and Sweden's Madeleine Radny round out the top 5, but Schriblak goes 2nd quickest. Karl Klerbort from Belgium, the fastest baker from these parts, he goes provisional pole in DD2 in 10th overall. William van der Kaj just outside of the top 10 overall, and now drops a little bit further as Dionysius Liveris goes into 11th place in the 4:36. Marcel Steiner from Germany goes 8th with just under 60 seconds of this qualifying session to go. So it's Goossens, Schriblak, Schwitter, Sebastian de Grond now jumps up into the top 5 ahead of Madeleine Radny from Sweden. Lasse Andreasen, David Remy, Marcel Steiner, Steve Bull and Tamsin Germain now round out the top 10. Tamsin's now running in the 54.2s as Schriblak and Schwitter cross the start-finish line once again, as Sebastian de Grond from Belgium now goes up into 3rd position ahead of David Remy and Jan Schwitter, who rounds out the top 5 overall. And it's quite close between Tamsin Germain and Karl Klerbort for what is DD2 Masters pole at the minute, as we've got less than a couple of seconds on the clock to go. The checkered flag will wave very shortly, and it does now. Time's now expired. That's it. 5 minutes are over and done with, as Radny looks to be starting from 7th in the 4:68. More drivers crossing the start-finish line to complete their order. Christoph Adams will start 18th overall, and that puts him around about 6th position in terms of qualifying for DD2 Masters. So Schriblak goes quicker than everybody else. What has Jan Negusens got to say about this in the 490? And is actually down on his countryman by about a 10th. So just waiting for the 490 to come across the start-finish line. So Jan Schwitter will start in 5th position. So it looks like, I've got a pretty good feeling that Zander Schriblak has taken pole position for DD2. ahead of Jan Negusens and Sebastian de Grand, making it a top 3 sweep for the Belgians ahead of Lasse Andreasen from Denmark. Jan Schwitter from Switzerland rounds out the top 5 ahead of David Remy, Madeleine Radney, Dionysius Livris, Marcel Steinert and Steve Bull rounding out the top 10. But for DD2 Masters pole, it was just 3/1000ths of a second, and it went to Belgium's Karl Kleebold in 11th overall, but pole for DD2 Masters ahead of Tamsin Germain, William van der Kaj in 13th, ahead of Timo Haug, Michael Becker, Tanju Yildiz, Jamie Billings, Patrick Weinstock, Christoph Adams starts 19th on the grid later on. Wood Coulson, Wout Antonijssen, Konrad Bayer, Christoph Leinen, Alexander Döllinger, Fritz Vernon, Roland Kinch and Ronald Billings round out the 27 strong. So that completes the qualifying stages of the first day of racing for the BNL Karting Series here at Karting Genk, home of champions. So we will have our first 4 actual races of the day very shortly, and I think very much, well no, actually we've got one more qualifying session to do, my apologies there. It's now the time for our new stalwarts here in the BNL Karting Series, OK and OK Junior. So it looks like we're going to have around about sort of 23 competitors over both categories. The OK category has had quite a lot of subscription uptake since we announced the category. Of course, we only had a very minimalistic grid at the kickoff 4 weeks ago, but now we will see proper competition in both OK and OK Junior. 21 drivers. So it looks like Maxime Fourmont-Castellan and Jules Castro will not take any part in this qualifying session. That's a real shame for the pair. Well, no, Jules Castro and, yeah, no, they are both there. I thought that might be a problem, but the timing screen has just automatically updated and told me otherwise, so silly me. So we have the likes of Evan Mallet, Loris Cabirou, Thomas Imbourg from France, Enzo Peugeot, who's running in the OK Junior class, Thomas Zahn, Frank Chapard, Nicolas Picot, who's also competed in the Rotax Grand Finals. I think finished 10th last year in Senior Max, if memory serves me correctly. Also, we've got a very... there's a particular team that I took a bit of attention to when I found this news out, that Daniel Greger is running under the Junior Team 75 banner. Team 75 just happens to be under the Timo Bernhard stable. Yes, of course, the German endurance specialist who has won with Porsche at Le Mans. Mads Lies again is back out on track. This youngster is a glutton for punishment. Third in last year's Rotax Max Euro Trophy overall standings, and also the winner of last year's Rotax Grand Festival at the Speedwad facility in Bruck an der Leitha in Austria last August. So the initial times are starting to come in, with Mallet and Cabirou leading the way, sub 60 at the minute. Jules Castro is just... quick shout, well, Gary Parsons, I think, has just messaged me on Facebook. Gary, if you head to the BNL Karting Series Facebook page, you'll actually see a link on there. It should work. It should definitely work. Hang on a second. What I'll do, Gary, give me a minute. I'll message you that very shortly. But I have to concentrate on qualifying in a minute. Thomas Imbourg is now with a 53.591 ahead of Evan Mallet. Loris Cabirou and Alexander Tauscher now rounds out the top 4. And, well, I did briefly see that Corby Powers was in the top 5. He's now down in 9th position on the 54.584. He knows this track very, very well indeed. So the times will rapidly drop. I think we could be quite... Well, we are getting closer and closer to sub-53s in OK at the minute. One driver that hasn't registered a time at the minute is Maxime Fourmont-Castellan. with the youngster from Luxembourg in the 1:36. 1 minute and 40 on the clock to go. Corby Powell's now up into fourth on a 53.039. Quickly drops down to sixth as both Picot and Chapard now jump up into the top three, second and third respectively, with Mallet and Cabirou rounding out a clean sweep at the top five for France. Lars van Vark and Corby Powell's and Andreas Tauscher ran out the top eight, separated by 6.5 tenths. Then it's quickly followed by Alexander Tauscher, Mads Ries, Matthias Salonen from Finland rounding out the top 10. That's separated by just over 8.5 tenths of a second. And I think we have gone sub 53. Yes, we have. As Thomas Imbourg from France goes top with a 52.098. In terms of the OK Juniors, it's Daniel Greger who's leading the way. Well, no, it's not. It's Lois Delbart in the 1:12 in 14th. Well, that's quickly been deposed by Germany's Daniel Greger in the 1:75. Mads Ries jumps up into sixth overall with 30 seconds on the clock. So 20 seconds to go. Imbourg leads from Lars van Vark, who's now with another team this season. He's now running in OK. The 2:01's just done a 52.169 and is quickly deposed by Evan Mallet from France, who's just gone 6 1,000ths of a second quicker. Checker flag is out and being waved. We're going to find out who's going to qualify where in OK and OK Junior. As, Ries Viveret from Belgium, I think, has just snapped it at the dying seconds. But it's dependent on what Thomas Imbourg and Evan Mallet have to say about this. They're going through. Well, Imbourg's just completed Sector 2. Evan Mallet, I'm just waiting for him to come through on Sector number 2. And does a 15.5. That's very quick indeed. Viveret could be under threat here if Evan Mallet has something to say about it. Very quick through sectors 1 and 2. And Mallet does it. Mallet snatches it and goes sub 52 in the process by 3 1,000ths of a second. Nice work from the 2:69 from France. That's a great effort. 3 1,000ths below the 52 second barrier, ahead of Ries Viveret. Frank Chapard and Thomas Imbourg round out the top 4, with Lars van Vark from the Netherlands making it 3 respective nationalities in the top 5, ahead of Loris Cabirou. Mads Ries qualifies 7th, ahead of Nicolas Picot. Giuliano Holzem and Corby Powell's round out the top 10, separated by just over half a second. Pole position in OK Junior in the meantime, it was a battle between Enzo Peugeot from France and Daniel Greger from Germany, and it was just over a tenth in it, with it going to the favour of Enzo Peugeot. So at the end of that session, Evan Mallet takes pole in OK, ahead of Ries Viveret, Frank Chapard, Thomas Imbourg, Lars van Vark, Loris Cabirou, Mads Ries, Nicolas Picot, Giuliano Holzem, Corby Powell's, who rounds out the top 10. Matthias Salonen from Finland in 11th, ahead of Olivier Goethe from Monaco. Alexander Tauscher in 13th, ahead of Tomozan from France. Jan-Peter Frieters in 15th, ahead of pole position setter in OK Junior, Enzo Peugeot from France, just fractionally ahead of Daniel Greger. Jules Castro rounds out the top 3 in that class, ahead of Lois Delbart and Sandro Holzem, with Maxime Fournier-Castellin not having set a time in this qualifying session, but hopefully the young Luxembourger will be back firing on all of the amount of CCs in that engine he's got. So it's now time to get the true racing action underway. We've had all 8 qualifying sessions completed here at the Home of Champions for day 1 of race weekend 1 for the 2019 season. So in terms of the qualifying heats for both Junior and Senior Max this weekend, on both respective days, it's 7 minutes plus an additional lap. It'll be Groups A and B in the first one. Just after the lunch break, it'll be Groups B and C, and then we'll also have Groups C and A before the short break between the races. So our lunch break will be at around about just after 11:30 this morning or so. And we have 4 races up until that point. So pre-grid is currently full to bursting point at the moment, as we just await for what's going to happen over the next 7 minutes, plus 1 additional lap. And obviously their times will be reflective of where they qualified in their respective sessions. Then they'll be split into the associated groups, and the grids will be dependent on where what time they provided, and also where it put them in the pecking order. So I've just seen the recovery vehicle being dragged back in. It looks like Sandra Holzem from Germany and Maxime Foran-Castellin have just been recovered back into the entrance into the pits. So 2 drivers that will have their work cut out for them a little bit later on, as the first final for OK and OK Junior will take place at around about 5 minutes past 1 this afternoon local time. So if you're in the UK, you'll be an hour behind us. Riga in Latvia, it'll be an hour ahead, as will it be the same for Athens. If it's Minsk in Belarus, it's 12:27, so around about lunchtime. With Tbilisi in Georgia, it's round about nearly 1:30, round about now. So I've got all these time differentials to work with. So time zones, let's say, as they're going to start clearing So, it's time to get the... It's time to get the first race underway here at the home of champions, Karting Genk in Belgium. And it looks like the starting order will be as follows. It's Tom Adams from Danny Van Dyke on the front row. Chris Hanen and Mike Van Vugt, defending champion in Junior Max in BNL, on row 2. Matthew Higgins and Tom Heinertz, row 3. Max Stemmerdink and Will Jenkins on row 4. Valentin Klus and Kai Hillertz complete the top 10 ahead of Patrick Snows Lokmelis, Bart de Wit, Gianni Andrisani, Alex Abkazava, Morris Schuring, Oscar Christiansen, Bruno Mollers, Zen Rudenberg, Rasmus Andersson. You then also got Summer Webb, Sam Bergstein, Flint Schuring, Samuel Sendis, Jano Zopfi, Morris Bechtel, and Dan Zopfi rounding out the 26 strong. So we have 7 minutes plus 1 additional lap as they go on to the formation lap, as we gear up and get ready for the Rotax Roar to scream around the hallowed halls of Karting Genk. It's been 4 long weeks and I've been anticipating this quite emphatically. So the top 10 will be Adams, Van Dyke. You also have Hanen, Van Vugt, Higgins, Klus, Heinertz, Stemmerdink, De Wit and Jenkins. That is the top 10. It will be a rolling start formation for the Junior Max category. This is heat qualifying heat number 1, groups A and B. We'll see groups B and C in action just after the lunch break at around about 12:15 local time. So, the red lights are on the starting gantry to get the racing underway well and truly here for the 2019 BNL Karting Series season. The field now concertinas into the 2x2 rolling start formation. Drivers now have to be primed and ready to anticipate the red lights going out as long as race control give the welcome go-ahead. They come round, turn 12 at a crawl, and on the front row it's Adams on pole, Van Dyke from the Netherlands alongside. Watch out, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Are we going to go green this time? Yes, we do. Off into turn 1, a little bit of barging, a little bit in the mid-pack, and it's nearly 3 abreast. There's pushing and shoving. Drivers will have to watch out for their front fairings if they're not careful. They can use the runoff, and we've already got one stranded way back in turn 2. Manages to get back in there and rejoin. Looks like Mike Van Vugt has already got up into 3rd position. Or is he a little bit further back? No, 5th by my count. 5th by my count. Matthew Higgins in 4th. As the field starts to stream through turn 8, as Van Dyke is going side by side, wheel to wheel with Tom Adams, who gets the lead. And also there with them is Matt Higgins. So it's a British 1-2. And who's there with them just behind? That's Chris Hanen. Chris Hanen steals 2nd going into turn number 10. Great work from the young Dutchman, Van Vugt, and Van Dyke ran out the top 5. 6 minutes plus an additional lap to go in this first, what's going to be an action-packed affair. Dan Zopfi is the one that's at the tail end, Charlie, of the field. Kai Helitz having to look over his left shoulder and try to make sure he doesn't come a cropper too early. He had that at the kickoff, as drivers still trying to, I think, tease the track limits off of turn 2. That runoff area can only be used on lap 1. And if it goes all wheels off, race control will look at it as the 4 leaders are line astern as it's side by side into turn number 7. Lead's already been taken back again. And this time it's Chris Hanen from the Netherlands that leads from Tom Adams from the UK. Mike Van Vugt now up into 3rd position and is ahead of Matt Higgins. Nice move there. I think that might have been Max Stemmerdink on Danny Van Dyke for what is effectively 5th on the road. As, nice work by Tom Reinhardt. Goes up the inside of Danny Van Dyke and also of Max Stemmerdink. Little push, a little tap on the left rear corner by Stemmerdink on Reinhardt, who's having to defend. But that was a bit too cheeky, I think, there from Max Stemmerdink. As Van Vugt is Van Vugt now up into 2nd past Tom Adams. So it's a Dutch 1-2 ahead of a Brit 3-4 at the front of the field. And whilst this is all happening, Chris Hanen is starting to pull away. Through turn 8 come the leaders, and there's a six-kart train led by, I think that could be Max Stemmerdink or even Danny Van Dyke in the 256. As they're still jostling for position. Oh, and that is Tom Heinertz ahead of Max Stemmerdink. Stemmerdink again trying to force the issue, but Tom Heinertz, newly promoted to Junior Max this season, is having absolutely none of it. Top 4 cross the start-finish line, 4 minutes 5 plus an additional lap to go as Danny Van Dyke gets past Stemmerdink on the final corner, and Heinertz loses out to Van Dyke, and Stemmerdink was clearly under threat from Christensen and Jenkins there, but Heinertz keeps its steely composure and is now in 7th position, but there is a move, and I think he's lost out. He has lost out again. Heinertz is getting swamped going through turn 6, down the back straight into turn number 7. He's really being tested under fire as Tom Heinertz, but he's making sure that he's got a good calibre of competition. This is going to help his learning craft as Chris Harnan is no longer leading. Mike Van Vught, the defending Junior Max title champion in BNL, is leading now ahead of the 264 of Chris Harnan. Then you've also got Tom Adams, I believe, in 3rd. Matt Higgins in 4th at the minute. Oh, there's a warning flag for Kai Hillertz I've just spotted, the 274, who is currently in 12th position, so that may be for exercising too much on track limits, but the race control will be looking at that very, very feverishly just to make sure that he doesn't infract that regulation again, because if he does, he's going to get a time penalty added to his race distance, as Van Vught continues to lead. Distance between himself and Chris Harnan was last time 0.3 of a second. Adams in 3rd, Higgins 4th, Van Dyke, as far as I last looked, he has actually broken away from the 5 behind, as nice little move there. I think that could have been from maybe Bartzevit. I'll see what happened. No, 230, that's Will Jenkins. So Will Jenkins now up into 6th position. Leaders come across the start-finish line again. You cannot really separate them. It's a great battle. Van Vught is the one with the bullseye on the back of his race overalls on the 201 from JJ Racing, as Heinertz is clearly getting his elbows out with the likes of Stemmerdink and a few others. Oskar Christensen, Bartzevit, Valentin Klus also in the mix there as well, whilst Danny Van Dyke is just quite literally streaking away from those from 6th to effectively what is 10th position. So Van Dyke sitting pretty lonely there, I must say, as we're now going into the last 90 seconds plus 1 additional lap in this first qualifying heat for the juniors. So Van Vught leads from Chris Harnan, Tom Adams and Matthew Higgins. That's the top 4. It's remained like that pretty much for most of this race, but the gaps are going to still be pretty tight. Top 4 separated by 0.48 of a second. As Stemmerdink gets past Will Jenkins for what is now 6th position on the road. Heinertz really getting stuck in there as well. I think Jenkins has lost out to the 237 for 7th position. So good little comeback there from Heinertz from the Netherlands. Leaders now streaming through turn 7 into the sweeping right at turn 8. Van Vught continuing to control as Heinertz gets very, very defensive indeed on Oskar Christensen. And it looks like there has been a change as Matt Higgins has now gone up into 2nd and is ahead of Chris Harnan and Tom Adams. So in 1 lap, Higgins has gone from 4th to 2nd, but Van Vught is pulling away. The gap was about 1/10 of a second. If he gets the hammer down quickly, he's going to have probably at least 2/10 gap between himself and Higgins. And it's 0.3 as, Chris Harnan does a great little move there on Higgins to retake 2nd going into turn 2. Now it's the triple left at 3, 4 and 5, reminiscent of Istanbul Park's infamous turn 7 in Formula 1 as they go through the 180 degree right-hander at turn number 6. So it's this plus 1 additional lap. Van Vught has just literally started to pull away and start his title defence in the right way possible, ahead of fellow countryman Chris Harnan. And the gap could be nearly half a second this time around, as Harnan is having to fend off Tom Adams for second place. Higgins has still got that ringside seat for what could happen in front of him. One more lap to go. Van Vroeg's gap was 7/10 to Chris Harnan. 7/10. So it's going to be really to see who's going to get best of the rest, as Van Vroeg is just clearly pulling away. He's going to have a substantial gap, as it looks like Adams was trying to put the feelers out on Chris Harnan going into turn number 6. Meanwhile, there's a little bit of side-by-side action a little bit further down the order in terms of the rest of the field, 26 of them in this qualifying group. But Van Vroeg comes through turn 9, which caused him problems at the kickoff just 4 weeks ago. He's kept out of trouble as the 2018 BNL Junior Max champion, and he comes through turn 11 for the final time. Now round the sweeping right that puts him onto the start-finish line. Checkered flag is being prepared, and it waves for the 201 from the Netherlands of Mike Van Vroeg, ahead of countryman Chris Harnan, making it a Dutch 1-2. Great showing from both Tom Adams and Matthew Higgins, rounding out the top 4. Danny Van Dijk clinched 5th quite convincingly by over a second from Will Jenkins, with Oscar Christensen getting the better of Gianni Andrisani. Kai Rielers came back and flew up the order to 9th in the end, ahead of Bart de Wit. Tom Heine still, I think, has to be pretty happy. So at the end of it all, Mike Van Vroeg, the defending BNL Junior Max champion, takes the win here in qualifying heat number 1 for Junior Max Groups A and B, and won it by over half a tenth of a second ahead of Chris Harnan. Tom Adams takes 3rd ahead of Matthew Higgins, with Danny Van Dijk and Will Jenkins completing the top 6. Oscar Christensen and Gianni Andrisani, with Kai Rielers and Bart de Wit rounding out the top 10. Tom Heine has to be pretty happy, I think. He was put under the... taken out of the frying pan and put into the fire, but finished 11th ahead of Max Stemmerdink, who was giving him a run for his money, ahead of Maurice Schuring and Flint Schuring. Bruno Mollers finished in 15th in his Junior Max debut in the BNL Karting Series, ahead of Alexander Kazava. Zen Rudenberg, Patrick Snolls Lochmelis finished in 18th ahead of Summer Webb, Valentin Klus, Maurice Bechtel, Dan Zopfi, Sam Bergstein, Samuel Sendis, Jano Zoffi and Rasmus Andersen rounding out the 26 strong. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have a grid for our first Senior Max qualification heat. On the front row, it is Reese Hunter, alongside will be Belgium's Ilian Brunsils. Lewis Gilbert will have Patrick Rundqvist for company on row number 2, ahead of Kai Hunter, Mads Rees, Teddy Clinton, Jason Lockwood, with Storm Breuer and Andreas Herbert rounding out the top 10. We also have Ben Davis and Emily de Hoys on row number 6 with Felix Vargier and Felix Jansson. The two Felixes rounding out row number 7. Ahead of Christian Courier, Sam Harrison from the UK rounding out row 8. Ahead of Leroy Jägersar, Arthur Horsch, James Lowther, Henri Jong, Bram Ossewaarde, Vincent van Kerkhoffen rounding out the top 11 rows. Ahead of Danny Kreuz, Anthony Overbeek, Marcus Radney, Clementine Benoit, Gaeta Jan Bon, Fabian Bock, Luca Den Hartog, Antoine Antier and Hayden Cater set to be in 31st position, having not been able to set a time during qualifying earlier on this morning. So again, for this particular qualifying heat, again it will be 7 minutes plus 1 additional lap. So now it's going to be time for the drivers, 30 or 31 of them. Just keeping an eye out for seeing if Hayden is at the back of the grid. Now it's time to get the rolling start formation underway, the final stage of it, as a matter of fact. 2x2 rolling start formation, customary in Rotax racing circles. As they come round turn 12. On pole, it is Hunter. Brunsils from Belgium alongside, ahead of Gilbert, Rundqvist, Hunter, Rees, Clinton, Lockwood, Breuer and Herbert. Do we go lights out? Yes, we do. And they head and stream down into turn 1. Brunsils steals the march on Rees Hunter and takes the initial advantage. Oh, we've got a spinner at the back. We've got more. Make that 3. So that's close. All 3 carts have managed to rejoin, however, and look to be in the mid-pack where the first, let's say, track expeditionist, when it comes to the grass, went flying off sideways, and it's nearly 4 abreast, further down the order, going into turn 7. That's incredibly close, and I know that you can't make it 3 wide in turn 7 unless 3 drivers want to prove otherwise to me. I've never seen it come out right for anybody that's gone side by side 3 wide in turn 7. So Brunsils leads from Rees Hunter. Rundqvist looks to be in 3rd position at the moment, and behind him is Lewis Gilbert in the 3:29. No, that's Mads Rees. Rees has got the jump on Lewis Gilbert initially. So Mads Rees up in the who's running in the 3:69 in Senior Max this weekend, ahead of Gilbert. Then you've also got Kai Hunter, Jason Lockwood, Andreas Herbert. So there's been quite a few changes. Teddy Clinton is in 18th place, and it looks like Felix Jansson, Henri Jong, and Clementine Benoit might have been those that went off, and I think that, well, Felix Jansson was on row 7, so that's a real disaster for the Swede in this early goings in the qualifying stages this first round, and looked like Gilbert was getting very, very feisty, trying to throw one up the inside of Mads Rees going into turn 10, but had to back out of it as the leaders come round to complete another lap. 5 minutes and 10 plus an additional lap to go. We're now on to lap number 3. As Kai Hunter sets the fastest lap of anybody, 54.641 for the driver from the UK, currently in 6th position, 1.6 seconds off of the leader, which just so happens to be one of Belgium's very own Ilian Brunsils, who celebrated his 16th birthday just over a month ago. And it looks unfortunately that Hayden Cater was a non-starter, I believe, so didn't make it onto the grid. So at the moment it is a battle between Brunsils and Rees Hunter for the lead. Patrick Rundqvist is in third position. Just wondering if there's been a change. Yes, Lewis Gilbert has got past Mads Ries. So Gilbert now back up into fourth position. And looks like Kai Hunter's going to go side by side nearly with Mads Ries going into turn one. Had to back out of it, slot in behind. And we'll have the run on the young Dane who's graduated from Junior Max from 2018. And is Hunter going to size him up for a move? As Gilbert gets past Rundqvist. Gilbert gets past Rundqvist for third place. But Rundqvist already back on the offensive. Taps the Scot on the back bumper from behind, which pushes Gilbert forward and allows him to have the advantage going into turn 7. As it's too wide, a little bit further towards the last third of the grid. So Cater non-starting on this particular heat. He'll be on the comeback trail hopefully, as the 388 of Stormbro is getting very feisty with Jason Lockwood. So Stormbro had to actually back out of it and lost the position in the process to Christian Kuya from the Netherlands. So Brouwer now down into 10th position, has firmly got Ben Davis on the back bumper. So Brunseel's lead over Reese Hunter was just over 2.5 tenths of a second last tour around. As Gilbert is not out of the woods quite yet. He's still got Patrick Rundqvist as Mads Ries has lost out and has lost out to Kai Hunter. So Kai's now up into 5th position. And Stormbro is coming under intense competition from Ben Davis from the UK in the 386. And the switch has been made. So Stormbro drops out of the top 10 with Davis getting the initial advantage coming out of the final corner. Meanwhile, looks like Reese Hunter has closed the gap on Ilian Brunseels. It's just over 0.3 of a second. Gilbert in third, Rundqvist, Kai Hunter, Mads Ries, Andreas Herbert, Jason Lockwood, Christian Kuya and Ben Davis now round out the top 10 in this first Senior Max qualifying heat, Groups A and B. As there's some further changes for position. James Lowther now up into 15th. Teddy Clinton and Artur Horsch now up into 21st and 22nd respectively. Ari Young now back up into 27th position as he's about to complete another lap. Looks like we're going on to lap number 7. 1 minute and 30 on the clock, plus an additional lap to go. Brunseel's lead is still around about 0.3 of a second ahead of Reese Hunter. Lewis Gilbert is a further round about 4.5 tenths adrift, but that gap could be closing. Then you've got quite literally a bit of a train starting to form up. It could be the Brunseel's train, not the Trulli train, as Jarno Trulli was very well renowned for in Formula 1 and also Formula E way back when. But Brunseel's lead could be under threat here. But it's not just Reese Hunter he's got to worry about, because Lewis Gilbert from Persistence Motorsport, and that's what he's being right now, persistent is the 329 from the UK. Then there's Rundqvist, Kai Hunter and Mads Ries. Top 6 separated by just under 2 seconds. As, here we go. Hunter's sizing up Rundqvist and makes the move up the inside of the first part of turn 12. Rundqvist tries to get the toe, goes back side by side, retakes the position nice and cleanly. As, well, the ding-dong battle between Reese Hunter and Lewis Gilbert is well and truly on, because Mads Ries has now latched onto the back bumper of Kai Hunter, who's behind Patrick Rundqvist. So Ries still could be in for a top 4 finish. But then you've got to think about the 3 leaders. Brunseel's still keeping it under control. His gap extended to Reese Hunter to just over 0.4 of a second. Lewis Gilbert is now really trying to muscle in as there's more changes. Mads Ries has just gotten past out of the corner of my eye, past Patrick Rundqvist. That is for 5th position. So the young Dane, who's sporting his national colours with pride on his race suit, now up into 5th. Can he start closing up on Kai Hunter? Well, it's this lap to go. Final lap in Senior Max qualifying heats A and B. And the move has happened. Gilbert has done it and was waiting for the time to strike. Kept the persistent motivational opportunity of an overtake and threw it past Reese Hunter into turn number 2. But it's still all to play for as Brunsils is getting away now. Over 5.5 tenths was the gap between himself and Reese Hunter on the last lap. Around the 1,360 metre circuit here at Karting Genk. But there's just a few corners remaining, and through turn number 11 comes Ilian Brunsils, 3:08 from Belgium, to have a clean lead and have no real challenge, and takes the win in Senior Max qualifying heat groups A and B, ahead of Lewis Gilbert. You then also had Reese and Kai Hunter rounding out the top 4. So 3 Brits in the top 4 there. Mads Reese makes it a third different nationality in the top 5, finishing in 5th, with it being another one for Patrick Rundqvist in 6th, another one for Andreas Herbert in 7th position. So in the top 7 places, we had 5 different nationalities represented. Jason Lockwood and Ben Davis and Storm Breuer rounded out the top 10, all separated by just under 6 seconds at the flag. Christian Kuya was 11th ahead of Emily de Huys. Felix Varget would finish in 13th, exactly where he was positioned on the grid, ahead of Bram Ossevaarde. James Lowther rounded out the top 15, ahead of the Netherlands' very own Leroy Jägersar. Sam Harrison and Teddy Clinton with Arthur Horsch and Fabian Bock rounded out the top 20, ahead of Anthony Overbeek, Vincent van Kerkhoven, Henri Jung, Antoine Antier, Felix Jansson, Luca Den Hartog, Danny Kroes, Marcus Radney, Clementine Benoit and Pieter Jan Bollen rounding out the 30 that started and also finished the race, with Hayden Cater in the 344, a non-starter on this time around. Right, so we've now got our penultimate race before the lunch break, and it is the first race of the season for our Micromax competitors. And your grid is as follows. It's Tommy van der Stroys and Casper Schurmans that make it a Dutch front row. ahead of Olivier Jonkers, Thomas Strauven, Max Swiderski, Aaron Ferrazano, Dries van Langendonk, Tom van Langendonk, Henri Velou, Matej Radenkovic, Olan van Wijs, Karel Stout, Kaz Tobben, Mick van den Berg, Jake Minton, and Tom Pappenberg that round out the 16 strong. This is going to be a little bit of a longer race because they haven't had to go through the qualifying heat stages. So it's 11 minutes plus one additional lap. These might be our youngest competitors, but I can tell you this much, that they will provide us with some great action. I've seen some great defending from the likes of Tommy van der Stroys, some great recoveries from the likes of Alan Ferrazano, Max Swiderski, who definitely caught my interest last October when we had the final round of the 2018 season. So again, because they are under the Rotax banner, one of 6 categories that have Rotax power putting power to the rear wheels. They will also go into a 2x2 race, rolling start formation, and just look at how quickly the majority of the drivers are in position. So for those watching at home, on the left-hand side of your screen, it's Tommy van der Stroys on pole with Casper Schoemans alongside, with Jonkers, Strauven, Swiderski, Ferrazano, Dries van Langendonk, Tom van Langendonk, Henri Velou, Matej Radenkovic, Olan van Wijs, Karel Stout, Kaz Tobben, Mick van den Berg, Jake Minton and Tom Pappenberg, your 16 Micro Max competitors. This is real control. Look how slowly they're making sure that we're waiting with anticipation. But I think that might be a bit too slow for anyone's liking, but the red lights are on the starting gantry. And as Van der Stroys and Schoemans lead the field round the final part of turn 12, they're being asked to slow down. They now split into the tram lines. Do we get the red lights out this time? Yes, we do. And they head down into turn 1 for the first time of asking. It's nearly 3-4 abreast. There's been a bit of contact roundabouts as Schoeman gets the lead. No, not at all. Thomas Strauven, the number 9 from GKS, has stormed in front of everybody from 4th position, but Schoemans is quickly on the heels. Van der Stroys regains 4th position ahead of Olivier Jonkers, so Van der Stroys, I think, might have been pushed a little bit aside, but it's 2 abreast going into turn 7, and there is, we've got Strauven, Jonkers, and now we have Aaron Ferrazano up into 2nd position behind Casper Schoemans, which means Tommy van der Stroys is on the comeback trail. 10 minutes plus an additional lap to go. So at the moment it is Schoemans from Ferrazano being led by Strauven, with Van der Stroys right on the back bumper, pulling alongside the number 9, and does so with clean efficiency and gets the run going into turns 1 and 2. And right behind is the opportunistic Max Swiderski, who's trying to, who nearly had to try and go round the outside of turn 3, but didn't make that happen. It wasn't going to happen. He couldn't pull it off, but he's gone up the inside at turn 6. Nice work by Max Swiderski, the number 19, as it looks like we've got Jonkers behind Strauven now for position. Swiderski looks to have lost out and now back down into 5th. And behind them we've got Dries van Langendonk in the number 15. Meanwhile, the 2 leaders starting to pull away a bit. The gap between Ferrazano and Strauven on the last lap was over 1.1 seconds. But I know the calibre of Tommy van der Stroys that he can claw this back. He has plenty of time to do so. 8 minutes 54 on the clock, plus an additional lap. And Ferrazano is in the tow on Schoemans, heading into turns 1 and 2. Oh, nips in. Oh, clatters onto the curbs. Nearly T-bones Schoemans. This has allowed Tommy van der Stroys to come into the mix. And here he comes, absolutely flying, is the number 54. Right on the back bumper of Ferrazano. Is he going to go up the inside of turn 6? Yes. Clean overtake from the Dutch driver. That's a really good pass. And now he's just signalled to Ferrazano saying, Let's get after Casper, shall we? Well, let's see what happens over the next 8 minutes and 20 seconds plus an additional lap. Behind that battle is the likes of Thomas Stuyven in fourth position ahead of Max Swiderski and Olivier Jonkers. That's the top six, as Shawmans is going to have to look over his left or right shoulder very quickly. No, he won't even have a chance to do that because Van der Stroys goes up the inside of turn 12 and cleanly takes the lead. Nice work by the 54. Quick glance over the left shoulder. Shawman gets the toe going into turns 1 and 2 and tries to force the issue. Van der Stroys has to go a bit defensive, goes a bit wide into turn 2. Cleanly nails the apex into turns 3, 4, now into 5. As looks like Swiderski's got past Thomas Stuyven now for fourth position. So the top three might be battling all and sundry, but the four behind are starting to close. The gap between Van der Stroys and Shawmans last time around, when the boot was on the other foot for the number 40, so to speak, was just over a tenth. Van der Stroys is not clear out of the woods yet. Still has 7 minutes, plus an additional lap to go in this first of 2 races for Micromax. But it's doing his stern job. He knows how to defend, and defend resolutely he did at the kickoff just 4 weekends ago. So Van der Stroys continues to lead by 0.2 of a second now ahead of Shawmans. But Shawmans is at it again. But Van der Stroys counters quite quickly. So Shawmans went up the inside of turn 2. Tommy went, no, sorry Casper, you're not getting past, and shuts the door firmly at turn 3. But Tommy does not need to look over his left shoulder. He should anticipate what Shawmans is doing, and Shawmans is like saying, Tommy, I'm going to be with you. As much as you might hate it, I'm going to be with you, and as close as I can in that respect. Well, hang on, Max Swiderski, that's a brilliant move round the outside. Or was that Alan Ferrazzano? Was that Ferrazzano going round the outside at turn 9? No, it was Max Swiderski on Thomas Stuyven. What's happened to Ferrazzano in the meantime? I think he's dropped back a couple of places. So Swiderski goes round the outside of Thomas Stuyven at turn 9. Stuyven retakes the place back at turn 12. That's brilliant racecraft from these youngsters in the Micromax category. So Van der Stroys leads by just over 0.2 from Casper Shawmans. Thomas Stuyven and Max Swiderski squabbling over the scraps, which is basically third place at the minute, ahead of Alan Ferrazzano, who's being closed on by Olivier Jonkers, and not far behind them is Dries van der Langdonk as the trio go through turn number 7. A little bit further back is Matej Radenkovic in 8th, ahead of Henri Leveloux with Karel Stout, rounding out the top 10. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, there's 5 minutes plus an additional lap to go. Great work by Tommy Van der Stroys to just know when to counter any attack that Casper Shawmans throws at him. As Swiderski's added again, back into third ahead of Thomas Stuyven. Stuyven's got the toe going down into turns 1 and 2. Is he going to pull alongside the number 19? Not yet, no, not quite. As Ferrazzano coming under increasing pressure from Olivier Jonkers and the fast closing Dries van der Langdonk. That's a great little battle there for 5th position. As Stuyven still trying to force the issue with Max Swiderski, but Swiderski is saying, no, I want third, I'm staying here. Max, you've got a hell of a lot of talking to do with your left and right foot and steering inputs over the next 4 minutes plus an additional lap to see if you can hold on to that third place. Meanwhile, the two at the front of the field pulling away considerably. The gap was 1 second between Shawmans in second, Swiderski in third. But Stuyven is not letting Swiderski out of his sight quite yet, as the leaders now come across the start-finish line. Gap between first and second is now 0.366 of a second, and it's extended to 1.3 between second and third position, as Swiderski is fighting like his life depended on it, as well. Thomas Strauven is bump drafting on the back bumper of the number 19 all the way through turns 3 to 5, and is still keeping in close proximity on the run down from turns 6 to 7. Bump drafting again, but can't make the opportunity present itself going into turn 7. So at the moment, the running order with 3 minutes plus an additional lap to go is still Tommy van der Stoys leading from Casper Schomans, with Max Swiderski making it a Dutch 1-2-3 currently. Ahead of the swarm of Belgians behind. Thomas Strauven in 4th, Adam Fedezano in 5th, Olivier Jonkers, Dries van Langdonk, Henri Verlou, Karel Stout, Holland van Wijs and Tom van Langdonk rounding out the top 12. Mick Vandenberg, Kaz Tobben, Tom Pappenberg and Jake Menton round out the 16 strong. But the lead is still intact for Tommy van der Stoys, as Max Swiderski still keeping it very clean on the defensive side ahead of Thomas Strauven. The pair was separated by less than a tenth as they crossed the line just a few corners ago. So 0.4 of a second between van der Stoys and Schomans. So van der Stoys starting to put the hammer down, starting to pull away, as Swiderski cannot shake off the advances of the number 9 of Thomas Strauven in this late stage of the race. He's really just got to keep himself eyes looking forward and not glancing behind, because that could be one factor that could lead to a mistake from the number 19 from the Netherlands, and could allow the Belgian in the number 9 from GKS Lemons Power to seize the clear advantage. Swiderski's got about a kart length advantage as third and fourth cross the start-finish line. Oh, but there's a little bump from behind from Thomas Strauven, again heading from turns 1 into 2. Now they're going to the triple left at 3, 4 and 5, and you cannot separate third and fourth at this particular moment. We're fast approaching the conclusion of this first race of the day for the Micro Max category, and van der Stoys has extended his lead comfortably by another 0.2 of a second. He was exactly 0.2 quicker than Casper Schomans. He's slightly faster in sector number 1. I just want to concentrate on some lap times, but I'll keep my eyes peeled for what happens between Swiderski and Strauven for what is third and fourth. 18.42 for van der Stoys, 18.475 for Schomans. Swiderski is fastest out of anybody out of the top 7 in terms of sector 2. He's just set an 18.381 as van der Stoys crosses the start-finish line with 30 to go, and the gap is now 0.673 seconds between first and second position, and it's 0.069 between Strauven in 4th, Swiderski in 3rd. So this battle for 3rd is going to go right down to the wire here in this first of 2 Micro Max races this weekend, the first of 4 over the next 2 days. So it's going to be this and one more lap to go, as the time on the counter has expired here in the first Micro Max final of the day. Second one will be happening at around about 2:15 this afternoon, as Swiderski and Strauven still interlocked, rear bumper to front bumper. You cannot pull them apart, as a little bump draft again from Strauven on the back bumper of Swiderski, but that's not going to help him at all if he keeps on doing that. And he pulls alongside, nearly gets about a third of the way along side by side with Max Swiderski, and had to back out of it. Meanwhile, behind, I think Fedezano has just lost out to Olivier Jonkers in the number 16 for 5th position. That he has, as the leaders now come through turn 6 for the final time of asking. Gap between van der Stoys and Schomans was 7.5 tenths, as Swiderski and Strauven still, where they were side by side heading into turn 7, but Swiderski had the inside line and had the apex advantage. Meanwhile, Tommy van der Stoys has just 3 corners to go through turn 10 for the final time, as Strauven is trying to use everything in his playbook to get past Swiderski before the end of this race. It could go down to the wire. He goes round to the outside, as van der Stoys will now take the checkered flag. to win the first race of Micromax category for the weekend. It's a drag race to the finish for third. Who's going to get it? It's Swiderski! Swiderski by 0.017. Strauman had the legs, but it wasn't enough. My goodness, that was heart in your mouth stuff there, ladies and gentlemen. But Tommy van der Stroys took the win in the first Micromax race of the weekend by nearly 9/10 of a second. Meanwhile, the drag race, fast and furious style, I might add, was neatly nipped by Max Swiderski right at the line. Pretty much a photo finish, and finished ahead of Thomas Stuyven by 0.017 of a second. That's one of the closest finishes I think I've ever seen, and I've seen a few. Dries van Langendonk made his way all the way up into 5th position, ahead of Aaron Ferrazano, who was in the running for the lead earlier on in this race, but had to settle for 6th. Olivier Jonkers, Matej Radenkovic, Henri Velou, and Karel Stout round out the top 10, with Tom van Langendonk, Houghton van Wees, Kaz Tobben, Mick Vandenberg, Tom Pappenberg, and Jake Menton not actually finishing the race, finished 5 laps down, unfortunately had to park it, with Tom Pappenberg being the last of the 15 classified finishers at the end of that race. So, for the final race before the lunch break, it's time for mini-max action, and your grid is as follows. Jaden Thien in the 107 from the Netherlands will have Tim Gerhards in the number 50 alongside the company. Max Knappen and Enzo Bol make it a clean sweep for the Dutch nation on road number 2 in numbers 148 and 155. Jasper Lehnert and Jules Van Zyl round out the top 6 ahead of Nick Gerhards, Tony Schmidt, Matthias van Goethem and Maxim Schurko. So, in terms of the grid for this particular race, again, it will be another 11-minute plus an additional lap encounter around the 1,360 metre circuit here at Karting Genk, the home of champions, based in the Limburg region in Belgium. It's always a pleasure to come back to this fantastic circuit. It's actually the circuit where I actually started. Oh, we've got a spinner already, and that is the 135 of Maxim Shurko, unfortunately there, who's just come a cropper, I think, on the formation lap. So Maxim needs to get to the rest of the field. He's a good corner or so behind, having that spin at turn 7. So it's Thien from Gerhards, with Thien, for those watching on the live stream at home, on the left-hand side of your screen when they go into the tram lines. So it's a Dutch 1, 2, 3, 4 with 2 Belgians behind. We'll see what happens over the next 11 minutes plus an additional lap. Red lights on the starting gantry. Do we get lights out this time? Yes, we do. Off into turn 1. Oh, it's very close between the likes of 155 of Enzo Bol, who's trying to force a move and goes up into second initially, as several drivers, I count 4 of them. Whoa, that's a really... Jasper Leenerts, where did you come from, sunshine? That was from 5th to 2nd, as everyone was squabbling over 2nd place, including Enzo Bol, who got the jump trying to go into 2nd from 4th position. But what an opportunist Jasper Leenerts from Belgium in the 177 is, as there's more curbs being bounced off of. And that includes the likes of the number 50 of Tim Gerhards. So Tim, again in the trenches, in the wars, and I don't think he's out of the woods yet. Enzo Bol looks to be a little bit further down the order. I think that's probably that's 5th position. And behind is the 148 of Max Knappen, who started on row 2. So already we've had pushing, shoving, elbows out, curb hopping. What's next? Anything's possible in karting. But we do now have a very clear leader, as Enzo Bol is contesting 4th place with Nick Gerhards at the minute. So I think that is Jaden Thien in the 107 from the Netherlands that is leading away. Tim Gerhards in 2nd. Jasper Leenerts up into 3rd. Meanwhile, the battle for 4th. Nick Gerhards and Enzo Bol battling it out tooth and nail, coming through the right-hand sweeper at turn number 8. And, Enzo Bol is side by side with Nick Gerhards going into turn 10, but comes up trumps and goes ahead of the number 60. That's 4th position for the 155. And the position is swapped again on turn 11. Just out of, it was probably the entry point of turn 11, which is just outside of my commentary viewpoint, as Bol is at it again with Nick Gerhards and goes up the inside into turn number 2. Nice and cleanly there from the 155 to retake that position, which is 4th, as the top 3 are pretty spread out now. So you've got Jaden Thien nearly 1.5 seconds ahead of Tim Gerhards. Jasper Leenerts is a further 1.2 seconds adrift of the Dutch driver in the number 50. Nick Gerhards and Enzo Bol are battling over what is 4th position. Bol has got about a kart length advantage going through turn 9, but whilst they've been squabbling, Matthias van Goethem and Jules Van Huyl has now got closer and closer, and from 5th to 7th, it's just over 1.1 seconds between the trio. So whilst Enzo Bol and Nick Gerhards are actually battling with each other, the 2 behind are starting to catch. Just want to see what the gap is between them. It's gone to just under a second between Matthias van Goethem in 6th position and Nick Gerhards in 5th, as Enzo Bol is now trying to break the deadlock between himself and Nick Gerhards for 4th place, which hopefully might allow Enzo to catch up to Jasper Leenerts, who is a further 1.473 seconds up the road. 7 minutes 20 plus an additional lap to go in this first of 2 races for Minimax here this today, and there'll be a further 2 tomorrow. Quick glance over the right shoulder from Jaden Thien, who has Tim Gerhards for company, and I think Gerhards has just done a 1:0, or has he just done? He's done a pretty quick lap, a 59.646, and that's the quickest of anybody. He's taken over 4 tenths out of Jaden Thien. Gap now down to just under 7 tenths. Tim Gerhards has clearly got the bit between the teeth and is really putting up a great show, making amends for what happened at the kickoff, which was to no detriment or no fault of his own just 4 weeks ago. And that gap is absolutely coming down. That is really being truncated by the number 50 of Tim Gerhards as they come through the exit of turn 11. And it's 2.5 kart lengths between first and second. Gerhards now in striking range of Jaden Thien for the lead of this race. 6 minutes to go, plus an additional lap. The gap was absolutely side away, and Gerhards goes for it and takes it cleanly up the inside of Jaden Thien. Goes ultra defensive coming out of turn 3, but what a show by Tim Gerhards to claw back a huge deficit over 3 laps. It was over 1.1 seconds, and in 3 laps he clawed into that, scratched it away to one side, and went up the inside of Jaden Thien into turn 2 ultra cleanly. That's impressive. It just goes to show that racecraft and performance come hand in hand, and that's what Tim Gerhards has in spades, and he's been showing that ever since we went green nearly 6 minutes ago, but it's coming up to the last 5 minutes, plus 1 additional lap here in our last race before the lunch break. And the gap now has swung in the favour big time of Tim Gerhards to 6 tenths. So that means he's made there's been a detriment towards Jaden Thien to the tune of nearly 1.8 seconds over the last 4 laps, and that also included him losing the lead to Tim Gerhards. The gap now is 6 tenths, and it's a little bit further back, actually just over 3.8 seconds to Jasper Leynertz in third. Enzo Boll and Nick Gerhards are about half a second adrift. That is the battle for 4th and 5th. But I think the battle between Leynertz and Boll and Nick Gerhards is getting closer. That gap is now less than 1.2 seconds between the trio. That's 3rd to 5th place. So Leynertz is going to have to watch what Enzo Boll does, as there's 4 minutes plus an additional lap. The gap was nearly 6 tenths. It's going to be quite a lot less than that. And it's 2.5 tenths. 2.5 tenths between Enzo Boll and Jasper Leynertz in the 177. So Leynertz from Belgium is going to have to watch out from Boll from the Netherlands, as he's getting very close indeed. And that was very close going through turn number 6 there. But Boll has got the toe. He's got the momentum. They're heading into turn 7. He won't strike yet. There's still 3.5 minutes plus an additional lap on this race to go. And it is still all to play for. Still time left for anything to happen in this race, as Boll is coming right on the back bumper and sends it up past Leynertz on the inside of turn 10. Very nicely, cleanly done by the 155. But Leynertz is sticking with going through turn 12. Jaden Thien is now 1 second behind Tim Gerhards in terms of the lead of the race. Meanwhile, in front, Boll is ahead of Leynertz, with Nick Gerhards pretty much getting very close to the back bumper of the 177. Was 4 tenths adrift as the trio go through turns 5 and into the right-hand hairpin at turn number 6. So Tim Gerhards just pulling away. He showed this kind of form 4 weeks ago at the kickoff, and today in this first heat, this first race, is going to help his campaign get off into flying style, because he will take the initial points lead, but it depends on who's going to go to Marienburg in early July when we leave Karting Genk at the end of tomorrow. So 2 minutes plus an additional lap. Tim Gerhardt crosses the line and does a 55.591. Jaden Thien sets his best lap of the race in the meantime, a 59.992. The gap, however, is 1.75 seconds as the move has happened between Nick Gerhardt and Jasper Leyners. So Nick Gerhardt now puts himself up into the lower position of a clean sweep for the Netherlands in the top 4 on that particular tour. 90 seconds plus an additional lap. A little bit further down the order, the gaps between Jules Van Hoel and Matthias van Goetham is now about 0.6 of a second. Is that going to be truncated in the next 1 minute, 15 seconds plus an additional lap? I'd like to say I think so, but I'm not too sure. However, Leyners is still keeping in touch with Nick Gerhardt, so the 177 from Belgium clearly wants that 4th place back. The gap now between Tim Gerhardt and Jaden Thien is now just over 2 seconds. 2 seconds. That's incredible. That's a really good showing. And Tim Gerhardt's best lap of the race, which is incidentally the fastest lap of this race, a 59.316, which was done around about 5 laps ago. Still running consistently in the 59.5s is Tim Gerhardt. Jaden Thien still running in the 59.9s at the minute, so has done a 59.722 as his best lap, 59.909 last time around. 19 seconds plus 1 additional lap before we conclude the morning's action before the lunch break. And it looks to be that it's quite convincing that Tim Gerhardt is just leading the way and is just pulling away magnanimously from Jaden Thien. Oh, that was very close. He crossed the timing line with 2 seconds on the clock to go. No, it's 2 laps to go. So he probably was just fractionally outside that window. So he goes through turn 4 for the penultimate times as Tim Gerhardt. Gap between himself and Jaden Thien now nearly 2 3/4 seconds on the start of the penultimate lap of this race. Then it's a further 5 seconds down to Enzo Bol, who's broken the toe on Nick Gerhardt, who's a further 7/10 adrift. Jasper Leyners still keeping in touching distance and set his best lap of the race last time around, a 60.072 from the 177 from Belgium. So this time around, Tim Gerhardt will be given the final lap board. And the gap to Jaden Thien was quite, it's gone up another 0.8. Need I say any more? Last lap around, Tim Gerhardt was 0.039 off of his best lap on the last tour. Jaden Thien did a 1 minute 0.146. Actually, scrap that. 59.333 from Tim Gerhardt. Jaden Thien was over 0.7 of a second slower on that particular lap. And now we're on the final one, as I can see that Tim Gerhardt has just come through turn 9 for the final time, into turn 10, the right-hander, before going onto the left at turn 11. And the checkered flag is being prepared for the number 50 from the Netherlands as Tim Gerhardt cruises to victory here in Minimax final number 1 on day 1 of the championship. Jaden Thien crosses the line in second, over 4 seconds adrift. Enzo Bol secures 3rd place ahead of Nick Gerhardt, with Jasper Leyners rounding out the top 5. But what an emphatic display from Tim Gerhardt in the number 50. Just clawed a gap back of 1.1 seconds from Jaden Thien, who was leading, and then just went, you know what, I'm just going to pull away. And pull away from Jaden Thien did Tim Gerhardt in the number 50. And convincingly took the win. So Tim Gerhardt wins the first Minimax final of the weekend here at the BNL Karting Series at Karting Genk. Jaden Thien, 4 seconds adrift in second, before a further 5 seconds separated him and Enzo Bol, with Nick Gerhards, Jasper Leenerts, Jules Van Zyl, Matthias van Goethem, Max Knappen, Maxime Sechurko, who recovered from the spin on the formation lap, and then Tern Schmidt rounding out the top 10. So, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the morning's action for day 1 of round 1 of the 2019 BNL Karting Series season. We now head to the lunch break, where we'll be back just before 10 past 12 local time, with the local time now being 11:37. I'll be back on the air just at around about 10 past 12 before we go into the second phase of the racing action here at Karting Genk, home of champions. Tune in at just 10 past 12 local time here at Karting Genk.